What is up, toy freaks? Welcome back to this episode. Listen, Reckless Ben posted his second video. Then, of course, I work third shift, so I've been at work all week trying to catch up, but we got a lot of stuff to go through, so let's just go through it. So like I said, it has been an absolutely crazy week with this Lego situation with Bam and the Mancells and the Gormans and Reckless Ben. Ben posted his second video. It's been crazy. So this is what we're going to do. We're going to take this in two different chunks. We're going to talk about like the Lego situation that's going on and all the stuff surrounding that. And then we're going to talk about the police interaction situation, which I'm going to have some very strong opinions about. So without any further ado, let's get to some housekeeping stuff real quick. One of the questions that was kind of floating around is like, and I thought this was interesting, is like, why is Lego as a company, not getting involved? And the answer is pretty simple. They're not affiliated with Bricks and Minifigs. At least that's my understanding of it. They don't supply BAM. They don't affiliate or promote or associate all that stuff with Bricks and Minifigs. So Lego's sort of out of it. However, I have seen very, very I've seen a lot of Lego ambassadors now weighing in on this issue. Now, whether they're doing it for clicks and views, kind of like I am, and a lot of people are, or if they're like being told by Lego to tell everybody that we don't endorse this, we're not affiliated, because Lego as a company keeps some pretty tight reins on the Lego ambassadors. And if you're not sort of following in line with what they want, they will boot you out of the ambassador program. And since a lot of these Lego ambassadors get sponsorship deals from Lego, they get free review product, early release product, it would make sense, at least to me, that some of these ambassadors are kind of being told, hey, if you talk about this Bricks and Minifigs situation, make sure you mention that we're not affiliated with them and, we don't endorse them. And just to get that out there. That way Lego doesn't have to dip their toes into this pool of nonsense that is going on with Bricks and Minifigs. At least that's my thought. What are your thoughts? Leave a comment down below. The other thing that's getting sort of convoluted, I just want to make sure that this is clear, is that there are a lot of video out there of the Bricks and Minifigure person, the CEO, the director of operations, whoever he is, saying that, we'll go to court and this is going to cost you more in legal fees than it is than the actual product. And I think that that's a fear mongering. It's a scare tactic. It's a company trying to intimidate people. I looked in Oregon and in Utah, you can sue for legal fees and court costs. And it said that the court can order it. You can be awarded it for frivolous claims and bad faith litigation. So those are just some of the things. So when they say like, oh, it's going to cost them more in the lawsuit, we'll just sue for the cost. And here's where I think this is kind of frivolous. Bricks and Minifigs now knows that they have this inventory or they owe for this inventory. And we'll get to that because I've got the printout from their statement. So they know they have this inventory. They're not giving it back or giving the value of it back. So to me, that's frivolous. They're forcing a frivolous lawsuit when they know that they're in the wrong. So loser pays. In the state of Ohio, I think it's actually called like Rule 9 or Rule 11 or something, where it's like, I've got you dead to rights. If you still want to go to court, you're paying for all the court costs. So yeah, just to get that out of the way, there's a couple house clearing things that I thought of earlier today. So in BAM's response, now this came out on the 28th of May, it's posted on their website, and you can definitely tell that the person that wrote this didn't write the first one, because this is written in a attempt at a legal sort of speakish document. And we'll get to why I think that is at the end. But I wanted to go over, while there's a lot of stuff in here, I wanted to go over like three key things in this document. First was the issue of consignment. We talked about this last time. It says in the disclosure that they provide resources for franchisees when it comes to consignment. It says in Crystal Gorman's franchisee agreement that they're allowed to do consignments. Bricks and Minifigs has now come out, and this is why these documents are so important, because it pins them down. To wit, it says right here The 2023 Owner's Operations Manual, which the former franchisee was bound to, states, make sure your business only buys. We do not lend, loan, consign, or pawn on any product that comes in. Okay? So what they're saying is that even though our documents say that we do consignment, they're saying here that they don't, and according to this agreement. Secondly, I saw this video one time and then I never saw it again. It was a CEO or COO, director of ops, one of these guys. And they were saying that no, consignment in that context means food and beverages. So I'm guessing like if Red Bull wants to come in with a case, you know, and they do profit sharing on the Red Bull that's sold in the store, something like that. Again, this is why these are bad documents to write, because if you're going to make a separation between consignment of product and consignment of services like food and beverage, then that needs to be defined and broken down in the agreements, right? Like you need to separate the two. You just can't say we don't allow consignments, but you can do consignments for food and beverage. Well, what you're misleading people. And that's where I think Bricks and Minifigs policies and their procedures are not in line. It's not going to look good when they go to court and the court looks at this stuff. So the other thing that was brought up, and I'll let Ben kind of talk about it right here, is this issue with their inventory system.
If there's 2 copies of the set, there's no historicals on when that set came in from a specific trade versus one that came in 2 weeks later. If it's 2 copies of the same set number, it's just 2 copies. Is that kind of how?
Correct.
That is correct, yeah.
There is something like that. This one's the damaged one, you know.
That is correct.
Along those lines. But because consignment is not.
And the way that they know what the sets are is they put yellow stickers, because that is a valid point. There can be multiple sets with like the same like number on it. And so how do you tell? They put yellow stickers on it. However, Josh and Brandon pulled all the yellow stickers, and like we have pretty good evidence of them doing that. And so
they knew which sets were his.
And they pulled the yellow stickers so that way they could sell his sets and be like, hey, like we don't know if this is yours or not. So that's kind of the reality of what happened here.
So at first they said that they did not allow consignments. They did this the whole time. We showed the video last time of the director of operations or whoever he was, apparently not allowed to even make decisions on the phone, telling Brandon in front of Crystal that you're going to take over the consignments as the new franchise owners, right? So they were aware that this consignment happened. The argument is that Brandon and Josh took these yellow tags off of the sets. And here's like a picture of the tags, so you can kind of see what I'm talking about. A bunch of YouTubers have posted about this. Basically, it's the barcode of the set. They put a yellow tag on there, and then they put a price tag on the yellow tag. And the claim is that Brandon and Josh went in there and ripped these yellow tags off. So now you don't know if this was a set that I took into the store or if this was, you know, a part of Mansell's trade-in that he did, or is his consignment deal, which also brings back this statement. Your business only buys. Well, are they allowed to take trade? Because you are. So this document is incomplete. It should say that your business only buys and takes product in as trade. We do not lend, loan, consign, or pawn. It's written in, they tried to write it in legal speak, but they don't know how to do legal speak, so they fudged it up. And again, we'll get to an Ohio Supreme Court case later involving Mr. McNeff, okay? The second thing was the value of the collection. So it is stated from, I just want to make sure I got this here. So let's take a look at this clip from Bricks and Pieces.
As you guys know, I reached out to Crystal, the previous owner of the store, for an interview, and in that time a new lawsuit was filed, so she couldn't come on and talk, but she has released a statement and sent it to me, so I'm going to read it out for you. This is a statement I'm sending to any content creator who is reaching out to me following Ammon's appearance on the podcast yesterday. My attorney has the inventory and so does Brian, but about a third of the collection had been sold. Approximately 60 to 80k market value was in the store that night. Corporate and Brandon took control. That figure varies so much because of the constantly fluctuating shift in the value of each individual set. And
all right, so what Crystal is saying right there is that a third of the inventory was sold. So if it's a $200,000 collection, we can kind of do the math here. A third of the collection is sold. Let's say that was like $65,000, right? A third. So now we're down to about $135,000 worth of Legos missing. Bricks and Minifigs is contending that the collection was worth $200,000, while viral headlines use $100,000 to $200,000 figure. The only documentation provided by the family months later was a spreadsheet detailing a collection worth somewhere in the range of $60,000 and $80,000. Now, this is what Crystal's saying, is that, you know, they had some break-ins, they had to move the inventory off-site, install some safes, move the inventory back into the store. Here's where it's going to get contested in court. Did they move all of that inventory in court? Because they're already on record saying that if someone came in and wanted a part of the Mansell's collection, they could buy it and they had to go get it. So imagine if you said that we took 4 Cloud City sets off-site for safety reasons, and then we brought 2 back to the store. If you said you brought 4 back to the store and you're lying, how do you know that that inventory was, like, there was a chain of custody for that inventory? You don't. So this is going to be a really weird he said, she said in court. But what Bricks and Minifigs is kind of admitting to here is that there was at least $60,000 to $80,000 worth of inventory that was given to them. So they're not claiming that this was in the store, which is also weird because they have pictures of those yellow tags and all of those sets that were in the store. So what they're saying is unequivocally wrong. But we are starting to chip away at this $200,000 Lego set collection, and we're trying to get down to a real number. And I think that the number that the Gormans are starting to throw out is like there might have been $100,000 to $125,000 of Lego left. Now it'll be interesting to see if it's their claim that all of that inventory, let's say it's 125 grand, was in the store. Because if some of it was still outside the store, then who's to say it was in the store if there was no like Excel spreadsheet annotating any type of chain of custody over where these Lego sets were? For all they know, they can make a claim that I have these Lego sets. It's very, very bizarre, but it is good that BAM puts this down in paper. All right, and the last thing I want to cover from this BAM statement was something that I was sort of about in the previous video about them repossessing the store. Like, why did they take ownership over this store, which is in their disclosure agreement? BAM can absolutely do that if they have met certain circumstances. So in their statement, I put a little purple dot there under claims we've seen online. Corporate lawfully repossessed a defaulting store. It says, BAM Corporate repossessed the Salem location because the previous independent owner had stopped making payments on the purpose of the location. Wow, we'll get through this. Had not been paying royalty payments for multiple months and owed additional tens of thousands in back pay for unpaid expenses on her behalf. Now, I wonder if they have to like pay for inventory or branding or advertisement or something. I don't know. I guess that'll all come out. But at least they listed a reason of why they took over the store. And they're saying that those 3 things were in play. Now, the Gormans have filed a lawsuit, and they've listed in their lawsuit a counter to that claim from Bricks and Minifigs. And we'll get to that a little bit later. So at least we know why the store was repossessed in an official capacity from Bricks and Minifigs. The last thing is about the way this was written. Remember I was saying this is like, seems like some kind of weird legalese? Okay, so I want everybody to write this down. Ohio Supreme Court case 2025-0037. There was a gentleman on Reddit who found this court case, and I'll kind of post them right here. What happened is Amon McNeff apparently has an alias, according to this Reddit user, who is using the alias Daniel McNeff. They have a linked email, and then on some of the court papers, Daniel is listed as Amon's alias or vice versa. Daniel was the person and Amon was listed as an alias. So it looks to be connected at this point. So what happened was the McNeff guy, right, was in the state of Ohio acting as like an asset recovery person, and the company was called Legally Mine. And what they would do is they go to companies and they would like, here's some documents on how to protect your assets and all that stuff. And they look like it was legal speak. Just like this. But people started to raise some concerns because they were missing things like your business only buys, even though you buy and trade. Buy and trade should be in there because a lawyer would know that, right? So they started looking into this situation with Legally Mine, and they found that they were sort of trying to pass documents off as if they were reviewed by an attorney, and they were not. And the Ohio Supreme Court found a judgment against Legally Mine in the amount of $5,000 and $1,220 for costs, legal fees and court costs, right? So they had to then also call all of these clients and say, listen, we've had this judgment against us. It's our duty to inform you that the documents that we gave you were not reviewed by an attorney. You can either have an attorney review them and stick with us, or you can get out of your contract with us free of penalty. Something like that, right? And again, you can look this up. The Supreme Court case number is there. But it is definitely weird that now you've got someone at their company that has a psychology degree that's already been busted for trying to pass pseudo-legalese type documents is now writing maybe their press releases. At least that's my opinion. I think that Amon thinks that he can intimidate people by saying that he's going to threaten to sue them and try and be a lawyer. He wants to be a lawyer. Like if there were, like you can get busted for impersonating a police officer, you should be able to get busted for impersonating an attorney, because he's already been found guilty of not doing the right thing. So moving on to some of these lawsuits that have been filed, and this is also, again, this is good because it's showing in a document, an official document, who's claiming what and sort of at what time, right? So Leonard French, who's a copyright attorney, has been covering this. And he specializes in, that thing is mine, here's the documentation, let's go to court, right? Like copyright is crazy. But he does really good breakdowns of these videos or of these events. So definitely check him out. And if I didn't say this before, any YouTuber I mentioned, I'm leaving a link to their channel down below. So that should be like standard, right? We're year 20 of YouTube. That's kind of standard practice. All right, so the BAM lawsuit. Now this lawsuit is against Reckless Ben. They are making a civil RICO claim. Civil RICO is money only. There's a multiplier to the dollar amount. You automatically got to pay the court cost, and it is 10 counts. BAM is alleging that the group, Reckless Ben's group, engaged in criminal activity. That's how you prove your enterprise for a RICO. They're alleged of doing fraud, extortion, forgery, criminal simulation, obstruction, and there are some other charges, right, etc. And Leonard said that all of Ben's videos are now evidence, whether they're good videos or bad videos. Are you a good video or a bad video? You know what I mean? It's now all in the court's purview. So it's all going to be looked at and scrutinized frame by frame. Ben may have some problems here. Trying to get someone to sign a fake delivery document. At some point you can say that some of the things he's doing are just stunts and not done with a culpable mental state, like he's trying to be reckless or negligent or something like that. But we'll see how that plays out. I'm sure some of those charges are going to get dropped. I think they should, because I don't know if criminal simulation fits in. But we'll see. We'll see how that goes. The second thing that Leonard was talking about, Esquire, Counselor French, was talking about was this Gorman's lawsuit against Bricks and Minifigs. It's a countersuit. Remember in the statement that BAM released on their website, they're alleging that the Gormans missed royalty payments, didn't pay their lease agreement, and owed them tens of thousands of dollars in back expenditures, whatever that turns out to be. So the Gormans' claim is that the debt is not theirs. That's pretty... We're not taking responsibility for any of that, is what they're saying. That's not our problem. And that BAM never gave them access to the store account. That's what they're alleging. My issue is, how did you pay at all? Where did the money coming into the store? If you don't have access to the store account, where are you putting that money? And now that account will be a court record, right? Because you've got to figure out what's going in and what's coming out of the accounts. Why didn't you call BAM and say, hey, our account is still locked. We want to pay you these royalties, right? Like I'm not taking anybody's side in this, but that sounds weird, because it's not like you own the store for like 2 months and they're still shuffling around paperwork and trying to get somebody to sign off on something and they're on vacation. You know, it's not something, you had this store for like 2 years, right? So you had plenty of time to get that worked out. The other claim is that the lease agreement was never turned over to them, and that the lease bill, right, the payment was going to Bricks and Minifigs. So they're claiming that they have the director of operations on a recording saying, and I quote, "The lease is technically still in our name." Now, there's going to be some context to that because there was a sentence before and a sentence after, so you're only getting that sentence in the middle. But again, like, I would be on the phone with corporate every week. Hey, we still don't have our lease agreement. When can you send that to us? Bills have to be paid. And if it's in your franchisee agreement that you're paying the, let's say, $1,000 a month for your store to, Chase Bank, you still have to make that payment. You just can't go, oh, I didn't get the bill for it. That'd be like if my neighbors got our electric bill and they shut off the power and I was like, well, I actually didn't get the bill. That bill went to the neighbors. They're not responsible. I'm still responsible for the bill. You know what I mean? So yeah, crazy stuff coming out of Leonard French on his channel. Great channel. Anyway, let's move over to some of this police corruption. This is the spicy meatball that everybody's been waiting for. So full disclosure, I feel like I'm qualified to talk about bad police behavior. I was a military policeman in the Marine Corps. I have a master's degree in justice administration. I've been a cop for 20 years. I teach firearms, and I'm the union steward. So we do grievances, discipline, and contracts. So I know bad police shit when I see it. Sorry for cussing. The police chief defensively comes out and makes a video for the American Fork Police Department that was, it was like 27 minutes or something, right? If you have to come out and defend your position like that, you're probably in the wrong. Like, you look guilty just for doing that. And then he sort of addressed it in a really low, but like, I'm not saying, I'm just saying, maybe someone should check his browser history. You know what I'm saying? Like, I didn't get a good vibe. Like, I wouldn't feel comfortable letting my kids go to his kid's birthday party at their house. You know what I mean? Like, I would not do that. The first thing that he started to say was that the PD, right, the police department, is saying that the redactions to this body camera video, all of it, the body camera, the cruiser cams, these were done at the request of the county prosecutor to protect the integrity of the investigation. Sometimes in police work, they leave that language really, really vague and allow the police to handle it however you need to handle it in real time. They're wrong, right? Every department, every agency has a body-worn camera or a cruiser-mounted camera policy. We have one, and it outlines when you can turn your body camera on and off and how information is going to be redacted, like, to protect a juvenile, or if we're going to talk about police tactics or something, we can turn those cameras off or redact that body camera footage, right, until the end of the investigation in most cases. So I think that is 100% a cop-out. He goes on to say, a lot of things in this video, but one thing that really stuck out to me, the officer that made this unlawful traffic stop told the driver, "I pulled you over for not stopping at the stop sign," which was not true. The video evidence showed that they did stop at the stop sign. What did the police chief say?
Richardson initiated a traffic stop on the vehicle for failing to stop before the stop line at a stop sign and failing to stop completely at that stop sign.
The chief of police looked at this video and said, "We ran a stop sign." And now he's using that to say, this was a legal traffic stop. The police officers did nothing wrong.
Well, he was pulled over for not stopping at a stop sign behind the stop line. So if you don't know, most states have a statute to where that white bar that is by the stop sign, you were supposed to stop behind that and then creep out towards the intersection, look left and right, and then make your turn when it's clear. If there is no line, then you have to stop even with the stop sign. In the 20 years that I have been in law enforcement, I have never heard or seen anybody get pulled over for that. Regardless, this is an error. This is a cover-up, because the officer didn't say, "I pulled you over for not stopping by the stop sign." He said, "I pulled you over for not stopping at the stop sign," as if he ran the stop sign. I have a huge problem with the way that they worded that and the terminology of that. By the way, the officer sitting there, you guys probably don't know this, but you're sitting in the cruiser. The cruiser camera isn't right here in most cars. It's either right on the rear view mirror. Ours is like almost on the passenger side of the car. So the angle that the officer was sitting and the angle that you're seeing in the video are two different angles. I guarantee you that the officer couldn't tell if that car stopped parallel or right next to, even with, I guess is the correct terminology, with the stop sign. Which is why people don't get pulled over for that stupid violation very much. So, yeah, it was unbelievable. I'm sure you guys felt the exact same way, that it was absolutely abhorrent. And then they prolonged the traffic stop, right? There's a court, I think it's Illinois versus Cabela's. You can't prolong a traffic stop more than what's reasonably necessary. So if it takes 15 minutes to do a traffic stop and you're there for 17 minutes, okay. But you absolutely can't delay a traffic stop to call a canine unit that's like 35 minutes away. And then the dog walks around the car 3 times and then finally hits. So it's absolutely crazy to me to see that happen, because we don't operate like that. But at some point, you're done with your traffic stop and you have to let them go. At some point, you are done with a criminal investigation because they're trying to make the claim that they're trying to get charges on him for harassment. At some point, you've gotten all the information that you need. If you either make an arrest or let them go. That's really the crux of how that's supposed to work. And to see these officers do that, it's like, yeah, that's bad. So another attorney that's covering this is clearly established. He's a civil rights attorney, buddy. Woo! Turn up the heat. Like Ric Flair, here we go. But he is breaking down this video and he's just like, nope, nope, nope. He's like, unlawful, civil rights violation, qualified immunity, right? He is banging on all cylinders. So let's take a look at his video real quick and we'll kind of break in.
Yeah, I was gonna scare him a little bit and let him go is all I really was gonna do. But
they don't have any information. Instead, the officer turned the detention into a scenario where he's like, you know what? We're going to scare them a little bit and then let them go. That's not a lawful stop.
So that's why I said you can't unreasonably delay the traffic stop, which is exactly what they're doing. If we're going to pretend in any way that this was a legal traffic stop, you can't delay it. It's an illegal traffic stop, so they should have let them go right away.
And at this point, the stop has already been going on for at least 10 minutes. They collected their IDs. They know exactly who they are. What is the purpose of the stop? So to me, this already is turning into a clear-cut Fourth Amendment violation that, based on the information available right now, should overcome the qualified immunity defense.
Yeah, qualified immunity, here's a 2-tier test. They're very lenient with police officers. Did the person violate a civil right? And was there a past practice, a lawsuit or something that particularly says that the officer can't do that thing? This is how lenient with the officers the courts are. I think if an officer has to make a split-second decision, the court should be lenient. But when the officer is obviously doing something stupid, then the officer should be held accountable. There's and I forget the name of the court case. You guys will have to bear with me here, where it was a qualified immunity case. The suspect was on his knees, hands behind his back. He was surrendering. They let the canine loose. The dog bites the crap out of this guy. And the judge goes, well, we're going to uphold qualified immunity because there's no law, there's no past practice saying that, the police couldn't do that, unleash a dog on somebody that's surrendering, that's on their knees, right? As dumb as that sounds. Then, like some years later, a suspect was surrendering flat on his stomach with his hands behind his head, and they let the dog go. And then they gave that officer qualified immunity because, well, in this case, the suspect was on his knees. In this case, he was flat on his stomach. So it's a completely different set of, like, those officers should have been in trouble and they got qualified immunity. So I understand why everybody gets upset with qualified immunity. But again, an officer making an honest mistake, a little procedural error, a split-second decision, they should probably be entitled to qualified immunity, right? Like, I think most people feel that way. Sidebar, did you know that judges and prosecutors enjoy what's called absolute immunity? They can never be held accountable for letting that 37-time felon go and then they stab somebody on a train, right? So think about that. when you think about immunity for people in the criminal justice system.
Let's keep watching.
Because
How many are in the car?
Huh?
How many are in the car?
2 are in the car. One in the back seat, and then Tyler in the front seat. And wherever freaking this guy's hiding.
So are they trying to just pick them up and get out of here, or do we have charges, or are we just tired of them being annoying?
I was gonna try to link it to get Ben to say, like, because he said that Ben sent him.
Yeah.
So if I can get Ben to say, yeah, well, I did tell him to go over there and do that, then I have harassment charges on Ben. But also at the same time, I don't care that much. It's more of just the fact that they're trying to be sneaky about it.
So the cop wants to keep them detained so he can get Ben to make some kind of confession. Guess what? The officer would not have even considered this if Ben just said lawyer immediately and was not willing to talk at all. But now the cops are starting to game plan to figure out if we just keep them there long enough, we'll get them to say what we want them to say. And that's in line with, they already say that they're annoying. They don't care as much, but they don't like that they're being sneaky. Well, guess what? Being annoying and being sneaky is not against the law. And as a result, it cannot form the basis to prolong this unlawful stop.
And then the last thing the counselor said there that I agree with is, is this a traffic stop or is this a criminal harassment investigation? Because at some point you have to call it. We're done. We've done all we can do at the traffic stop. We're done. We're done. We've done the harassment investigation. We're done. And as much as some cops think that being annoying is a crime and being shady is a crime, the attorney's right. Those are not crimes. I looked through the revised code. It's not in there. I was looking for, Ohio Revised Code 2719.34B, being shady, aggravated felony. It wasn't in there. So this police department is going to have a lot of problems. I think you actually file with the Department of Justice Civil Rights Division. I think that's how you file against the police department. But yeah, there it is. So that traffic stop was obviously bad. I think we can all agree. If you think that was a good traffic stop, leave a comment down below and we'll have a conversation. The second thing that I saw in the Reckless Ben video that I'm like, what in the heck is going on here, was this raid of the Airbnb. Now, this came to fruition because the person that owns the Airbnb said they may have heard Ben or somebody in there talking about stolen Lego, which I'm sure they were talking about, we're going to go after bricks and minifigs and we're going to get these stolen Legos back and da-da-da. And the cops turned that into like, there are stolen Legos in there, even though they're not looking for stolen Legos. It was weird. So with this raid, and I think it was clearly established, broke down this search warrant. Now remember, a search warrant is to do what? Search for something, right? Fourth Amendment, the right of the people to be secure in their persons, papers, houses, and effects against unreasonable searches and seizures. We all know that part. The second part of that is, and no warrant shall be issued without being based upon probable cause, sworn to by oath or affirmation, signed by a judge or magistrate, particularly naming the person or property to be seized. Remember that. So this search warrant is filled out. They're looking for stolen Legos in connection to a stalking charge. It's what it says right there in the document. Okay, right there, boom, looking right at it. So I'm not sure what stolen Legos has to do with the stalking investigation or whatever that they're trying to pin on Ben. And then later, like the very last line of the search warrant says, and arrest Ben Schneider. Well, we have an arrest warrant. It's like right in the title. If you have probable cause to arrest Ben, then get an arrest warrant. You know what I mean? So the whole thing was very weird. And then they didn't even find any Legos. And as someone that teaches tactics, they're standing there by these glass doors, right? And they're getting everybody out. That's not where you want to stand because if they're dangerous, remember, these are dangerous stalkers with stolen Legos. If someone's on the other side of that door and they start taking shots at you by that glass door, the cops are putting themselves in danger. What you want to do is you want to call them over to a safe location where you can search them and do all, assuming that this warrant is even good in the first place. The judge didn't even read this. Remember when I said the definition, the part of the definition of search and seizure the Fourth Amendment was particularly naming the person or property to be seized, that warrant needs to say, we're looking for possible stolen Lego sets related to whatever case, may include but not limited to 3 Lego Cloud City sets, 4 Luke Landspeeder sets, right? They have to have some idea of what they're looking for. Otherwise, if I'm a judge, I'm not going to sign off on that warrant. Because if they search in the wrong place, for example, you can only really legally search where the item could be. So if you stole a guitar, I can't go sifting through your jewelry box because it's not reasonable that a guitar would be in a jewelry box, right? There's like all kinds of fruits of the poisonous tree doctrines, all types of legal precedents for bad searches and seizures, you know? And I just think that this search warrant was so vague. You're linking 3 things together: a stalking investigation, stolen Lego, which has nothing to do with this, and then arresting Ben, which should have been an arrest warrant, not necessarily in the search warrant. So and not only that, but their tactics are terrible, by the way. As someone that, again, teaches tactics, I could watch and see that. This brings up, and I wrote, we'll get out of here in a minute, but I wrote, this brings up a ton of free speech issues, and there was an issue with the court papers. You remember that fiasco where Ben's like, well, these are the papers we're just supposed to give them. And the cop's like, do you mind if I take those? Well, the body camera is now showing the interaction between the cop and Josh. And Josh is like, well, I don't want those papers. They're fake. How do you know? How do you know?
So we are in a court case with them and we have to serve them legal papers.
She is a process server and she's trying to serve you papers.
She's not a process server.
Okay.
Get the papers.
They're
fake papers. They're fake. Go get the papers.
Okay. You okay if I bring those over to you?
Absolutely.
Okay.
They're fake.
Can I see those papers?
Yeah.
So this is what you're trying to serve them with?
Yes. I wish we could just send them an email. I wish we could just send them a phone call, or the court could send it to them, but this is what we're required to do from the United States court. So we're just following the instructions of the government. He thinks if I just call the cops on me, he can get away with it, but we're showing him, like, we don't have him get away with his crime, so.
Okay. You okay if I give these papers to him?
Yeah, for sure.
Okay. Hang tight. Are you okay if she just gives you the papers so we can just get
Have
her?
you looked at the papers? I've talked to the Kaiser Police Department. There's nothing filed. So no, I'm not accepting service from him.
Okay.
Absolutely not. It's fake.
Okay.
It's not real.
That's completely fine.
Take the papers. Take the papers and go, if these are fake, then my lawyer's going to handle this. But thank you for giving this to me. The officers called and said, these are real documents. This is a real court case. In Oregon, they want you to try and get restitution for the judgment. And if the person says no, go pound sand, then you can file another lawsuit, that's kind of what Ben is doing with this, rightfully or wrongfully. And again, I think people watch too many movies. It's not like, I'm gonna lie and deceive you and then say, here you go, here's your Chinese takeout menu, and you go, oh, thank you. You've been served, because you physically touched it. That's not how it works. That cop on the body camera could have said, this is not a federal subpoena, bro. These are legal documents that you need to deal with. You're on body camera. You're looking at these papers. I'm going to leave them on your porch. What you do with them now is your own business. Then go back and tell Ben, here's the body camera footage. He's got his paperwork. He'll respond however he responds. Thank you for visiting American Fork, and we'll see you down the road. Now that you no longer need to be here, you can leave, right? Because I think that's all they needed to do. And then Ben covers the situation with is she an actual court server? She's authorized to, and it was like, are you 18 years old? Are you affiliated with the case? Are you an attorney? And all those boxes were checked. So I guess technically she could be a process server in the state of Utah. They may want to look into that. Like maybe have a certification program or something, like a one-day course. Can we get a one-day course so you can be certified to handle court documents? But I just thought that whole thing was weird when it came to him not wanting to take the papers, because I would have told him, I don't really care what you want. This is from the court. They're yours. You can take them or I can leave them right here on your lawn. Makes no difference to me because it's all on the body camera, like I said. Body cameras have helped out law enforcement tremendously, even though we were sort of resilient to it when they first came out. But anyway, guys, man, there's a lot to cover. There's all kinds of stuff coming out daily. I look forward to reading and responding to your comments. I tried to respond to as many as I could last time. And thank you guys so much for the overwhelming support on the last video. Make sure that you like, comment, subscribe, share on social media. Don't forget to bang that notification bell so you can stay up to date on all of your toy freaks goodness. Take care of yourselves, and we'll see you on the next one.